Did the College Football Playoff Committee screw Alabama football? I think it is the number one question in America sports today. And I have to tell you, I'm not sure. I can see it both ways. I understand why Alabama football fans are upset this morning, but I watched every snap of that ACC championship game. I thought it was really compelling, but I don't know that there is an argument to be made that SMU is more deserving than Alabama. And I think that's the thing that I am struggling with. And the conversation I think we need to have this morning is how important is strength of schedule. Ward Manuel, the chairman of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, straight up sat on ESPN last night and said strength of schedule is vitally important. It's something that we really considered. Then how is Alabama out of the College Football Playoff and SMU is in? That I don't understand. And if you look at all these rankings that we're going to get into and the seeding and the slotting and the matchups, how on earth, if you value strength of schedule and it is a key component to the way that you made these decisions, how on earth is SMU in over Alabama? That I cannot reconcile. And we can sit here and we can talk about how much you hate Alabama football and how much you hate the SEC and how tired of them they are. Don't sit here and make the argument that strength of schedule is a critical component and then put in SMU over Alabama. It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, did Alabama lose to Oklahoma ugly late in the season in November? They did. And I think it was absolutely a knockout shot for Alabama football. But Ward Manuel, in my opinion, is a liar and a hypocrite. I don't believe two words that comes out of his mouth. I can't believe he got a contract extension at Michigan. So when he sits here and tells me that strength of schedule matters, I do not believe him. I just don't. I think that this College Football Playoff Committee bent the knee to public sentiment instead of putting the 12 best teams in the playoff. I think it's as simple as that. If strength of schedule mattered, BYU would be in the College Football Playoff. If strength of schedule mattered, Boise State would not have a first-round bye. It's embarrassing to me, in my opinion, that we have a College Football Playoff ranking and championship program that does not include strength of schedule. And Jake, I think it is the single biggest weakness in this entire process.
Absolutely. And I think every year we have teams who are seemingly excluded from the college football playoff, but we're not really sure why. And obviously last year with Florida State, we had a pretty clear picture as to why. It was obviously the injury to Jordan Travis. But I think this year, with Alabama, I think the hard part is that, the SEC, you can't have it both ways. Last week with the rankings, everyone said, all the hyenas were like, oh, well, there's SEC bias. And gosh, the College Football Playoff Committee just wants to favor the SEC. But now this week, Alabama's not in, and I don't see any of those hyenas, complaining about SEC bias. So I just think that they sat up there and they said, hey, the SEC's got plenty of representation. We don't want to be seen to be biased towards the SEC, and we're gonna try to find a way around that. And I don't care what Ward Manuel says on ESPN and any conversation he has publicly with the media. I don't believe for a second that he and that whole committee don't sit there and say to themselves, okay, well, we want to make sure we don't skew this thing too heavy towards the SEC, but we got to make sure that the best teams are in the college football playoffs. So I would agree. It's kind of hard to watch Ward Manuel sit up there and be like, oh yeah, strength of schedule matters, but yeah, let's go ahead and keep Alabama out. It only leads us down one path, which is the College Football Playoff Committee is doing what human beings do innately, which is we're going to try and put together the best college football playoff that we can, but we're also going to take into account external factors like public sentiment about the SEC, like the fact that Alabama has a winning culture and should be in there every single year, apparently, except for this year. So that's where I say, I just think when you have human beings making decisions, you're going to get massive inconsistency. And I think Alabama this year is the perfect example of that inconsistency.
Yeah, I think the anti-SEC bias played into the emotions of the college football playoff selection committee. I don't know how else you explain it, because I think, what are the great stories in this bracket? I don't think there's any doubt that Arizona State is one of the best stories in all of college sports.
Right.
I think in all of sports, period. My guy Dilly, I think, is one of the most inspirational, inspiring, really great young leaders in all of athletics. I think what you see out of Dilly, I love it. The sore thumb here is Boise State, in my opinion. The sore thumb here is the fact that Penn State gets a free pass in the first 2 rounds of the playoff. The sore thumb, in my opinion, is that Indiana is in here at all. And I understand that record matters. But if you're beating the worst teams in your conference and you lose to the only quality opponent you played, how does it make any sense at all that Indiana is in the college football playoff? Because strength of schedule does not matter. It doesn't matter. And I largely, again, how is Notre Dame one of the 5 best teams in the country according to the College Football Playoff Committee? That's the one where I'm like, how on earth does that matter? You can't tell me strength of schedule plays into this at all and then slot Notre Dame 5th.
Yeah, and that's why I think that the idea that Ward Manuel is going to sit up there and say that it is a joke. I mean, you can't, with a straight face, sit there and be like, oh, yeah, strength of schedule matters, but then have all these examples through the bracket you've put together where you've got really weak schedule after really weak schedule. And I'm sure, and we'll get to the comment section in a few minutes, I am sure Boise State defender is in here talking all their junk. The reality is that you're beating up on bad teams, man.
Yes.
That's the reality of the situation. And no, I don't think Ashton Jeanty should be the Heisman, dude. No, I don't. He plays one side of the ball and he plays Mountain West competition. Just the same way I can say that SMU or Notre Dame or Indiana shouldn't be in the college football playoff because you haven't played anybody, man. And I don't know why it's so taboo in sports culture to say, oh, yeah, wow, man, Oregon's 13-0, 14-0 now. But who did they really play? Well, they played Ohio State, and then they played Penn State. Okay.
Yeah.
So at least they have a couple of games that you can point to and say, yeah, those are legitimate wins. Can't take it from them. But I just think we have such an aversion to saying something like, oh, yeah, well, Ashton Jeanty is going to struggle to win the Heisman because he plays, inferior competition to other Heisman candidates. Or this team shouldn't be in because they played nobody, Indiana. Like, I don't know why that's so taboo, but seemingly it is. And I do think, to your point, the college football playoff doesn't, like Ward Manuel said yesterday in the morning, right after the rankings came out, that the college football playoff committee sits in that room and does not consider seeding when they put the rankings together. He's talking about the fact that, hey, he said 4 times with Reese Davis yesterday morning, hey, we don't consider, or we've been tasked with putting together the top 25 teams in the country. And through that process, coming up with the 12 best teams in the country for the playoff. And basically saying the seeding falls where it falls, right? We're going to go with 1 through 12, and the seeding is the seeding. I don't believe that, though, because when you look at the bracket, it's written all over their face that that's not true.
And how do you have Boise State? What were they, as high as 9th, I think?
At one point, yes. Yes.
How is Boise State? You really want to make the argument that Boise State's one of the 9 best teams in the country? Do you really want to make the argument that Boise State is on par with Tennessee? That, hell, throw out Alabama. You really believe? And I don't know if most people just don't watch Boise State football. And again, I admit that I have no life, and most Saturdays all I do is sit and veg and watch college football. I've watched a lot of Boise State football. I do not believe they belong in the same discussion with middle-tier SEC team. I watching that UNLV game, their offensive line does not belong in the same conversation as Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Texas A&M even. I don't believe that LSU would lose to Boise State. Boise State is not on par with LSU.
Right.
I don't believe Boise State's on par with South Carolina. So somebody make me the argument. Somebody tell me how on earth this fraudulent college football playoff committee had Boise State ranked 9th in the country at one point, and that absolutely decimated far more deserving teams. BYU versus Boise State, yes, I agree. That's a compelling matchup. You want to put them in the middle of the – does Boise State beat Minnesota? Probably. Yeah. Does Boise State beat Purdue? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Boise State's good enough to be in a power conference. Let's be clear.
I agree with that.
I don't think that Boise State's good enough to beat most of the college football playoff teams that we have in the bracket. And I also want to say before, again, all the hyenas come out and say that we hate Boise State because we're somehow an SEC show.
But that's not the conversation we're having.
But I think that's the reaction, though. And
I agree with you.
The reaction is, oh, well, you guys hate Boise State or you hate this. Because remember the Florida State thing last year. Oh, you guys hate Florida State. No, we don't hate Florida State. Your boy broke his arm or whatever, his leg, and couldn't play. Like, it is what it is.
Do you understand the middle of the SEC? And I'm fine with the fact that most garden variety Boise State fans don't watch SEC football. I'm okay with that. But do you understand how good Ole Miss's defense is? Have you spent 25 seconds? If we look at the defensive numbers, and you look at the way that Ole Miss plays defense, because Ole Miss, I think, is a fringe college football playoff contender.
Yeah,
I don't think that they have the resume to get in. But I can tell you right now, they are significantly better. And I've probably seen 85% of Ole Miss's snaps this year.
Just look at their schedule. Look who they beat.
But when you watch that defense, they're not UNLV's defense. They're not missing tackles. They're not getting blown away in the hole. This is a family show. They're not overrunning the line of scrimmage like UNLV did repeatedly the other night. Ole Miss's defense is fast and physical and disciplined. I look at Alabama's defense. Did they lose to Oklahoma? They did. Does Alabama have limitations? Yeah, I don't believe that Jalen Milroe can throw you to a win. Alabama's twice as good as Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
They're bigger. They're way deeper. They're way faster. Is Ashton Ginty one of the best running backs in the country? Yes. Would he start on pretty much every team? Yes.
But the difference is playing Alabama, you're not going to run dudes over. That's the difference. You're going to have to fight for every yard you want to get. And I think your point about UNLV is well said. Credit to Boise State. You beat the hell out of UNLV. It's a great job by you. You did what you did, in my opinion, what you should have done, but you had to go out and prove it, and you did it again. So credit to you. But I just think that whether it's Boise State fan or whoever you want to point to, right? We obviously have numerous examples. The defense mechanism that pops up when you say, oh, well, hey, you don't really have a way to stake a claim to the CFP outside of the fact that you won the Mountain West. And, when I look at the seeding, I don't know how you're seated where you are. You should be seated 12th, in my opinion.
Boise State, this elite team, Boise State, that Boise State fan wants to tell you is as good as any team in the country, yet plays your mom and her cousin every week. Do you guys understand that they're ranked 62nd in total defense in the country? In FBS, they're ranked 62nd. Do you understand that Boise State gives up 5.6 yards a play and 361 yards a game?
Come on,
against quite literally subpar opponents. And then you this is why I bring up Ole Miss. They give up 4 3.5 yards a play and 313 yards a game in the SEC. And you cannot physically, possibly in your right mind, sir, sit here and tell me that the Mountain West is comparable to the SEC. Because if you do, I just don't know where that conversation goes, other than I'm going to laugh at you.
Yeah, you're just uneducated.
You just don't know college football.
Yeah.
You cannot put Boise State in the same conversation with Ole Miss.
Unless you're the college football playoff committee. And then
you can apparently do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. And so you texted me yesterday, this Ward Manual thing. I think it's a perfect point, and I think it exemplifies everything that we as college football fans go through, which is Ward Manual sitting up there talking about how strength of schedule matters is insulting to the garden variety college football fan. And it is. And I think that the Ward Manual, whether it was at Michigan or with the college football playoff and this bracket they've put out, is a master deceiver. I think that this guy will never allow anybody to know what actually happens in that room.
No.
And I think that the thing that really stands out to me is that if you're Greg Sankey sitting here watching this, you're not going to forget that Alabama's out, even though their strength of schedule is superior to most of the teams in here. You're not going to forget this when it comes back around and you're negotiating with the other conferences, or you're, trying to figure out this Super League concept that we've talked so much about. And I just think that college football is awesome, and I love it, and it's so entertaining. It's one of the best things that we get to watch on a week in and week out basis. This particular year, I've been more tuned into college football than I've ever been, more so than the NFL, which is a thing for me. I'm more of an NFL guy typically. So I think the product works. The problem is that now we're going to get into a situation where at some point Boise State's going to get boat raced. I have no question about that. I think that you're going to run into a team that's bigger and stronger and faster.
Look at Penn State.
Like, come on.
As much heat as I've put on Drew Aller this year, Penn State offensively, you want to talk about compare and contrast. Boise State, Penn State. Penn State completes 69% of their passes. Boise State, 62%. You want to know how good Colorado's offense is? Colorado completes 74% of their passes. Boise State completes 62. Okay, the best versus not the best. Middle of the Ole Miss. Boise State, who is 50th in completion percentage, 50th against a crappy schedule. 62% of their passes complete. 67% for Ole Miss. That a fringe, not elite SEC team. Like, I look at Washington. Mid-table Big Ten team. Against this juggernaut Boise State, Washington completes 72% of their passes. Like, the Big Ten, does Boise State finish top 6 in the Big Ten? I don't think they do. Do they finish top half of the Big 12? I don't think they do.
The Big 12's got a lot of physical defense in it.
Does Boise State finish top half of the ACC? I think they do. Notice I haven't said 2 words about SMU, who I don't think, in my opinion, should be in the college football playoff. SMU's a better football team than Boise State is. Is it close? It's very close. You know why I give SMU more of a nod than Boise State? SMU's got a baller at quarterback.
More ways to win.
I think it's as simple as that. I guess the way to put a bow around this is this college football playoff committee lied to your face and you believe it. Ward Manual lied to your face, in my opinion, when he said strength of schedule matters. Then how do you have Boise State ever ranked ahead of BYU and in the top 10 nationally with the, I think, 62nd strength of schedule?
Yeah, because that's the issue. I mean, it's not an issue that they're in. They're the highest ranked G5. But
and you look at the rankings. And if you go to week 13, let's say, and you look at the fact that Boise State starts in the top 12 in week 13. Week 14. Boise State moves from 12 to 11. One spot. Okay. How about week 15? Boise State still in the top 10. Week 16. Boise State now 9th. They're moving up. Everybody else is playing much more difficult schedules. Boise State just keeps moving up. And you have them top 9. So again, lie to my face, Ward, right? At least give me a reach around. Tell me that strength of schedule matters.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't. It doesn't. And this is the part that I think we can all agree upon. What did the college football playoff committee, what is the unspoken message here? Because here's the quiet part out loud. Do not schedule up. Do not schedule big non-conference games. Do not schedule anybody but Mercer in the Citadel. Don't do it. Do not do it. Because if you schedule Notre Dame, or if you schedule that, hey, Oregon, and you pick your SEC poison.
Right.
Oregon, don't you goddamn dare schedule Alabama. Because what's the payoff? Why would you do that? When if I look at Boise State, they got a first round bye playing the Girl Scouts. They got a first round bye playing Pop Warner teams. Notre Dame into the college football playoff as a 5 seed. And again, I only say this because I want you to understand I'm a passionate, diehard Notre Dame fan. Notre Dame is not the 5th best team in the country. Because that's what you're telling us. When you rank them, when you put them in this order, and you tell me that Notre Dame is they're not. How?
Yeah.
How is Indiana there? But you know what that is? That's an in-state rivalry now. And we're making matchups. SMU and Penn State. James Franklin, are you going to win a game? James Franklin's
Can you do the press conference after the game?
Bro, did you see this James Franklin press conference? This has nothing to do with rubbing yourself naked against other dudes in the Penn State locker room.
My bad.
James Franklin doesn't win big games. And then when he has to do a press conference after losing another big game, it does not go well.
Great. We can start right here in the front row.
How's this a smart setup?
Yeah.
This is for Drew.
Wait. We can hang tight for just a second. We'll try to get that audio turned down next door.
I got no issue with them celebrating, but this is kind of a JV setup.
Well, win the game. Do you guys understand what that was? That was Penn State's press conference with Oregon's band playing the Oregon fight song in the background. Win the game, James. Win the game. But again, who are you, SMU and Boise State? Is there anybody who believes? Is there anyone on this show that believes that Penn State is one of the 12 best teams in the country? Because I'm not sold that they are.
But at least they've got a better resume than SMU or Indiana, or I mean, at least they've played people. Like, at least they've played good teams.
Yeah, Penn State is the 4th ranked team. Sorry, man, they're not. And James Franklin doesn't win big games. And if James Franklin doesn't absolutely brutalize, probably the wrong word when you're talking about Penn State, but if James Franklin and his Penn State Nittany locker room nudists don't absolutely dominate SMU and Boise State, come on, man. That's the easiest path in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Now, Texas, Clemson, Texas, Arizona State. How about the Big 12 getting 1 and the ACC gets 2? Is what happened Saturday night and Sunday morning, is this a clear indication that the ACC is better than the Big 12? Apparently. You're telling me Colorado and BYU don't have a much stronger case than SMU, who lost to BYU. Oh, but that was in Provo, 8:15 night game. No, it was. That was down there in Dallas County. You're telling me that BYU doesn't have a...
Come on, bro. Come on, man. This is what I mean. Strength of schedule doesn't matter, dude.
And what does Jack Wagon over here say to me when he walks in? He doesn't say, "Hey, Monty. Hey, did you have a good weekend, buddy? No. What does he say? What? Boy, how do you feel about Baylor and Dave Aranda keeping his job now with 2 in?
It's really unfair.
How about Mike Gundy taking a pay cut to stay at Oak State? And you wonder why? And you wonder why all of a sudden the Big 12's only got one team in, and all this year and all this hyperbole. And Oak State, James, if you're here, please do not wet yourself, please. I would say this repeatedly all year long, and you guys hated on me for it. You rode me about it. Here's where Dave Aranda getting a contract extension at Baylor. Here's where Mike Gundy keeping his job. Here's where all the average, mediocre football played in Lubbock this year. Here's where all of this comes back to roost.
Yep.
Because, and I think you guys know I have a lot of respect for BYU. BYU can't be the best team in year 2 in the Big 12. Sorry. That is an indictment.
I think Arizona State winning the conference is a worse indictment.
That is an indictment. And it is, I am talking to you, Stillwater, Waco, Fort Worth. I am talking to you, Lubbock, Texas. I am talking to you, the old heads in the Big 12. The K-States who don't have a quarterback to throw them to a win.
But Monty.
No but Monties.
Come on, dude.
Shedeur Sanders being the best quarterback in this league, Deion Sanders being the biggest brand in this league in year 2 is an indictment on all the old heads. The fact that Mike Gundy took a pay cut and they snipped his balls off. How is he going to recruit when he took a pay cut? How is he going to talk about, you want to know something that if you're in Stillwater, you want to know something that should absolutely terrify you? You want to know the guy that should be absolutely terrifying to you? It's this cat right here. Listen to this dude. The most compelling, the most inspiring coach. I think I could make the argument in all of college football right now. Listen to him talk about NIL.
For us, those kids want to be here. And it's sad that, it's unfortunate that those kids want to be Sun Devils, and some of them are going to have to face, they're going to have to face questions of, do I want to be a Sun Devil more than I want another $300,000? And I think these kids want to be here. And I think if this community wants a winner and wants to continue to have a winner, then they're going to have to step up and continue to step up, because they already have stepped up. But the only unfortunate thing is we keep winning. And it's funny how when you keep winning, it gets more expensive to win.
It's facts.
So that's Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State talking about, hey, these kids want to be Sun Devils, and they're going to choose between making $300,000 more or being an Arizona State Sun Devil. And then you say to yourself, well, did Kenny Dillingham take a pay cut? No, Mike Gundy did.
That's what I told the players. There's no negotiating now. Portal's over. All negotiations history. Now we're playing football.
You can enjoy
just coaching and playing football.
Oh, okay. So I'm not allowed to talk to you about money, Coach? Well, what am I doing in your... How did I get here then, Coach?
What was it about him, and just what did you like about what you saw from McGann and stuff?
Do you want me to go back into coach talk, or do you want me to tell you the truth?
The truth.
The truth?
Yes.
He was very inexpensive. The number of players that we go after that were ready to play at this level, we can't afford.
And that guy took a pay cut to keep his job. So you don't want to talk about NIL. Negotiations are over. And yet you have Kenny Dillingham in Tempe talking about how he's fighting for his players, talking about how there's no pity for the kitty, talking about how, my God, they're going to have to choose between being a Sun Devil and $300,000. And here's Mike Gundy, who is winless in the Big 12 this year. Well, Kenny Dillingham won the Big 12 championship. Here's Mike Gundy taking a pay cut, saying, I don't want to talk to you about NIL. Hey, these guys are only on our team because we could afford them. They were cheap. Not winning a game. And you want to keep him, so you offer him a pay cut, and you think that he's going to recruit and that he's going to do well in the portal, and somehow next year you're going to bounce back. Yeah, I got bad news for you, dude. Where's the Zach hire already? It's not coming because Mike Gundy's a lame duck coach. What I think is the most important program in the Big 12, Oklahoma State. I think it's the most important program in the Big 12. It's got history. It's got big name Hall of Famers in the NFL. Just gave their coach a very public pay cut. They said, take a pay cut or take your job. Which one's it going to be? He takes a pay cut. Well, Kenny Dillingham's talking about kids having to make very difficult decisions about taking $300,000 or being a Sun Devil because he's got no pity for the kitty.
Yeah. And what's the obvious difference? Kids want to be Sun Devils and they don't want to be Oklahoma State Cowboys right now.
And the obvious difference is they want to play for Kenny Dillingham, and I don't think anybody wants to play for a coach who's a lame duck.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the Gundys and the Arandas and the Spike Dykes' kid and the high school coach who's got a job in Lubbock and the lame duck got my nuts clipped in Stillwater, and you wonder why you only have one team in.
Don't wonder anymore.
Don't wonder anymore. Because if you'd have fired Dave Aranda, if you'd have done what you should have did and you fired Mike Gundy, if you'd done what you should have did and hired a real experienced winner in Lubbock, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And it's really disappointing that this league wants to cry foul instead of do what has to be done to win games. You are a victim not of the College Football Playoff Committee, but of yourself. It's why when we talk about how much you all every day hate the SEC and Alabama sucks, and they don't suck. They're probably better than your program is. And you're tired of that. And you're worn out on that. And you're tired of the SEC bias that we talk about on this show that's real and it exists. But this is why there's an SEC bias, because I never have to wonder if Kirby Smart went 0-9, there wouldn't be a conversation. And again, Lincoln Riley, or they're talking about firing Ryan Day, man.
Yeah.
You think Ohio State? Do you really think if Ohio State goes winless in the college football playoff that Ryan Day is going to keep his job? You really think that if they lose to the only 10 I see, and I think there's a real chance they do because that Tennessee defense is a 10. Good luck. If they lose to Tennessee, does Ryan Day keep his job? No, he does not. That's my prediction. I know we have a ton of Buckeyes who watch this show.
Yeah, I think it goes further than that, frankly. I think if you don't get to the national championship game, he's out. I think they're tired of losing to Michigan. I think their particular path obviously runs them into Oregon again. So if you lose the same team twice in 1 year, that's not a great look. Like, I just think there's only one expectation, for the Buckeyes, and that's a national championship.
I'm amazed, but I want the Big 12 to succeed because I think it's better for college football. You can't have Deion Sanders in Colorado contend as one of the best teams in the conference in year 2. And really year 1 in the league, his second year in the conference, or in the program rather. You can't do that. But yet we just did that. Right? We just did that. And I think it speaks. This is what I've always said about the Big Ten. You can't have Oregon win the Big Ten championship in year one.
Well,
you can't do it. And I would also point out how, oh, God, Marty, man, the Pac-12 was terrible. Turns out it wasn't.
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't.
Because it's garbage.
Anyway, I digress. I don't know that we should probably take comments today. We should probably turn commenting off.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Big 12 fan, you should be pissed.
Let's see how this goes. As usual, the comment section presented by our good friends at Prize Picks. I don't know how I do it. Well, I do. I'm brilliant. I had a dominant weekend in the NBA. I did terrible in the NFL. Can we just not talk about the Bears today? And whatever that humiliation in Sam Frog's disco was, because
why don't we talk about the Chiefs instead? What do you think? What do you think? More help, more doinking.
Here comes the Chiefs homer coming out. Here's the Chiefs homer. Go ahead, Jake. Talk about how great the Chiefs are.
You're a homer is the first part.
I know, Coach. I know. I'm a terrible guy. I'm a homer. Dude was jumping, false starting all game. Like, I know.
But I'm being serious, and I ask you, because I'm looking at my Prize Picks totals here, and I have to tell you that having $7,841,000 in my Prize Picks account would be impossible. I'd have cashed that out already. But you look at the fact that I'm over $800 again after losing 7 of 8. I don't know how I do it.
I win. Google me.
And Labrum James the other night coming through.
The Bricklayer.
The
Flag Bear.
Was amazing. And the very idea that Steph Curry was 6 3-pointers, more or less, and I took less and he gave me 4 or gave me 5. That's my dude right there. Right? Like that is the magic of being a pimp on Prize Picks.
Right.
And the fact that my guy, Julius Randle, was at 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists, and I took more. And he gave me 29. It just makes my heart flutter. It makes my heart flutter because I know as much as you know that I know that you know that we know that I'm unbelievable. And then you go to, you knew that LeBricklayer, LeCap, LeDad was going to miss the Blazer game last night, which automatically meant the Lakers were going to win the game. And my guy, what did I tell you the other day about Anthony Davis?
Gotta take AD, man. First team all street clothes.
But shut your mouth. Points, rebounds, and
street clothes Davis.
Points. Stop it. Points, rebounds, and assists is what I told you about Anthony Davis.
Right.
Anthony Davis last night was 38.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
Well, he gave me a 50-piece nugget, Monty.
Which is a huge number. 30 points, 11 rebounds, and a dime.
Okay.
42. The rack attack! You got to get the sweep.
Right.
That hurt my titty. But my point is...
Okay.
Stay hard.
My point is 3 for 3. $110 on a heater. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty. Monday Night Football tonight. What do you like on Prize Picks on Monday Night Football tonight? Because I think you're looking at, I think arguably one of the great seasons in the history of Prize Picks with old Marty here.
Hey, Marty.
And it is Cowboys hosting the Bungles. And my question is, Patrick Mahomes is already half a passing yard. They already have the Patrick Mahomes promo up. Patrick Mahomes half a passing yard.
You're not a Chiefs guy, so you shouldn't be taking that.
Shut up. Shut your mouth.
Yeah.
I love Jamar Chase, 81.5 receiving yards more tonight. I am a huge fan of Brandon Aubrey, the Dallas kicker, making 2 field goals because they're not going to score a lot of points. And then I think you have to go Cooper Rush, 1 passing touchdown more. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Yeah.
There are your Monday Night Football picks. Easy peasy. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more instantly. It's as easy as it gets. At Prize Picks, download the app. Make sure you use the promo code Monty.